So Andy, it's good to see you so far. Everybody's giving you the highest marks for competency. You're getting the highest marks from everybody. Let's see if we can maintain that as we go. Andy Hollinson, Chief Executive Officer of the Square Metre, specialising in crowd management in the last mile, very specific and very critical, clearly. Also, I'm sure you'll say, Andy, one of the very first people to come in pretty well at the ground floor and to get a degree. Was one of the very first people in the world, I believe, to have a degree in crowd management, which I think is symbolic of the progress that we are making. I mean, to say to somebody 20 years ago, the guy standing on the door, by the way, you're going to have a degree in this in 20 years' time, would have been so unthinkable. It would have been laughed out of town. Andy, great to have you here. Over to you, sir. Thanks,
David. I'm not sure how I take to the floor after those talks, but I'll give it a go. My name's Andy Hollinson from the Square Metre Group, and we specialise in crowd safety management, consultancy and training, working in around sort of 20 different countries across the world at the moment, and growing rapidly. Taking it back to the start of my career and how I got into this industry, I started off as a cocky 18-year-old who knew it all, and decided to start in the close protection field rather than in the typical ways that you would grow up in the industry. And very quickly, I fell into some roles internationally at things like the World Music Awards in Monaco and various international events, where I ended up working with lots of different celebrities and attending lots of different arenas and parties and nightclubs and all sorts of things. And that just sparked a real interest in me on how every venue we went to worked differently, how everyone seemed to have a different idea of what good looked like and how things should be run. And I found myself in Monaco with some of the biggest stars in the world and some really experienced security professionals, and every single one of them was saying they wanted something done differently. There was no set way of doing anything. So I learned quite a lot, and then that kept sparking an interest. And then I moved into running a security company, which I really lost the love with after a while. And then the fun started happening a bit. We fell into events. And I ended up, someone said to me, "Oh, you've done all this security stuff abroad and with these celebrities, and surely you can run this event for us." Yeah, I can do that. That's easy. Yeah, of course. Okay. I was in for a rapid learning curve there. And I remember very early on into managing these events, and Jacqui's hit this, almost took my thunder away with this thing already, because I remember a police officer saying to me, "What qualifies you to tell me how to run this event and how this event's going to happen and how it's going to be safe?" And that has stuck with me. And that was back in 1998, 99. And that has stuck in my head ever since. What qualifies you to tell us how to run this event? And I said, well, I've done all this work with celebrities, and I've worked abroad, and I've managed these events and up to 20,000 people. And so I didn't ask you that. She was really blunt about it, and I'll never forget the SAG meeting. I didn't ask you that. I asked you what qualifies you. And she hit a real point, and from that point on, I did something about it. So I went off to Bucks University. At the time was recognised as the International Centre for Crowd Management Studies. And I did a degree programme where I met my mentor. Many people have probably heard of Dr. Mick Upton. Sadly no longer with us, but he mentored me through university and pushed me to do a lot of things and learn a lot of things about crowd management, and helped me develop things about training. And as I went through the university process and learning the academia side of things, I started to comprehend why things were done in certain ways, and it became very apparent why that question was asked previously. You may have all this experience, but you don't really know why you do it that way. So the academia side of things started to come in and started to really question what we do, how we do it. And as people have mentioned, competencies, to be able to tell someone to do that, how should you be qualified? And then I started to look into more detail, and I realized that after the introduction of the Security Industry Authority in the UK, that if I wanted to go and work at a music festival, and I was going anywhere near the bar as a security professional, then I had to go and attend a 3, 4, 5-day training course and obtain a license to practice with the Security Industry Authority. If I wanted to be a crowd safety manager in charge of people's lives, hundreds of thousands of people maybe at certain events, I just had to have a good CV. And it just seemed really strange to me that would be the case. So to work as a door supervisor in a nightclub or in a bar, I had to do this 5-day training course. I had to pass an examination or a number of examinations. I had to get a license to practice to say I was a fit and proper person to be doing this role, and I had an acceptable criminal record. Yet to be in charge of hundreds of thousands of people's lives, I didn't have to have anything. I just had to say I had experience. How's that right? I'm at the top of the tree there. How's that right when all the team below me have to have qualifications and competencies and show their understanding? So back in 2014, I set up a brand called Crowd Safety Training under the Square Metre group. And the idea behind crowd safety training was to look at ways that we could access funding in the UK in particular, to provide companies with the training that they needed to answer that question, what qualifies you, to be telling us how to do things. And a number of levels, from your steward level, an entry-level position on the ground, your security levels, your middle management, your senior management. And it just started to fascinate me in how we could start to use funding to develop things. There's lots of security companies out there that are really big, that because they're really big, might not actually be the best on the ground. Might have the most experience between the team, but there's lots of smaller security companies as well, who I'd seen and had one myself that really wanted to do things better, really wanted to improve standards, but they didn't have the budgets for the training of the larger companies. So we set up with a view to sourcing funding to take away that financial barrier for the smaller companies and some of the larger companies as well, because we know some of the larger companies are run by accountants and they don't want to spend necessarily the money to upskill all the staff as they should. So if we could find a way where we provide professional training that hits these competencies that we're discussing, and the qualification is Ofqual approved, maybe it's regulated in some way. And so there's a quality strategy in that training qualification. There's a method to it where it has to be assessed by third parties. It has to be, so many of the training qualifications we started to work with, the tutor would have to mark the learner's work. The tutor's work would be marked by a quality person to make sure that the tutor wasn't being biased and they were marking things correctly across the board. And then by using a third-party awarding organisation, there was another layer of quality in there, so an external person that's checking that work as well. So that was our goal, to set up training at all levels, from steward to senior management and beyond, with partnerships, to enable people to just do their job better in the events sector mainly, but we do also work with the nighttime economy and other areas as well. And by doing so, by improving that knowledge, ultimately we're going to save lives at events around the world. So now wherever I travel around the world quite a bit and talk to different people in different countries, and as I've said before on some of David's sessions, it doesn't matter where you go in the world. If you ask someone about a disaster that's happened at an event, everyone talks about Hillsborough. Sorry, I've just had a window cleaner turn up, completely out of the blue. So everyone talks about Hillsborough, and they understand that the UK have had so many incidents in the past that we should have learned from them. And I like to think that we are learning from that. And many of these disasters, when we look into them, what's happened, training becomes a big issue. So that was our goal as we were set up, to provide access to public funding, access to qualifications to help security companies, event organisers become better at what they're doing. And always from the start, it was also our goal to give back to the industry where we could. So if we could access public money, that would enable us to fund other things that would help the industry learn and help the industry develop. So a number of years ago, we set up the International Crowd Safety Conference, which was held down in Birmingham at the Motorcycle Museum. And it attracted around 300 to 400 people. We provided that for free to people to come along. Everyone had lunch there, they had coffees, everything. It was like a full-blown conference presented by two celebrities from the UK, Chris Akabusi and Roger Black, who are quite famous for their sporting activities in England. And we put this conference on, and professionals from all over the country came, and then we had people traveling from the Middle East to this conference, from Europe, from big organizations, and we realized that this became a bit of a forum for sharing this information. And we realized it doesn't matter what you do, you have to share this knowledge and share it with everybody. And it's not all about, whilst we are a profit-making organization, and we do look to make profit, we do look to give back as well. So we formed this conference, and that went really well. And we went on to continue to provide training across the world, and we've been involved with many major events like the Commonwealth Games, the Qatar World Cup, and training teams there, and various other organisations. We subsequently run the conference 2 more times, once more, at Olympia, as part of the Security Expo that many of you all know that happens there. And each time it's got better, and we've had a wider reach, and we've started to see that the message is getting out there. We had some police officers travel from Australia, one in particular who had been one of our students a number of years before. And the New South Wales Police paid for him to travel to the UK and do a talk on how the training that we'd been involved with and the liaison had changed policing at major events in Australia. That was a big win for us. The message was getting out there, and to carry on certainly the work of Mick Upton in the past and passing on his legacy and the things he put together. Since then, we're always, as I say, we're always looking to give things back, and we've started a magazine, which is currently the Crowd magazine. It's a magazine dedicated solely to crowd safety management, and again, the magazine is free for people to receive in print in the UK or digitally, or through an app. So it's giving back and sharing information, and that is a learning portal as well, because everybody puts an article on it. It's designed to be CPD for people. It's designed to be continuous professional development, and we have university professors and experts in the field writing articles that people can learn from. It's never about bad news or saying these guys have just done this and they're wrong. It's about CPD and things that people can learn from. So we've given that back a bit. Since then, we've started to develop more qualifications and look at how we improve professional standards. Again, I heard Jacqui use some key terminology about knowledge, skills, and behaviours. And I think with qualifications and regulated qualifications, it's not enough to just give somebody sometimes a certificate. You can't run a training course for someone where you say, right, you've been here, so you must know that subject now, you've attended for a day. And sadly, our emergency services and a lot of councils are very keen on those short courses where there's no quantifying what they've actually learned from the course. So a lot of our courses have an assessment strategy in them. And the behaviours category is really important. So this person has this theory and they have this knowledge, but can they put it into practice? Can they actually do what they've learned to do?
Andy, can I come in and ask a question there, because you're going off in this?
Of course you can.
I'd like to bring sort of everybody in. I'm seeing watching the clock here, and the question is, who manages that? Because somebody's put up here, there's so many courses out there. There's so many people, offering stuff. I mean, to be honest, when we still went to pubs, I would imagine that in 20% of the pubs in the UK, on a Friday evening, somebody would say, you know what, we should start a training company. I mean, seriously, mate, look at that bloke, we could do one of those. So the question about it is how do we maintain the balance about sort of, opening up that and supplying it? Because of course, everybody wants to control that to a certain extent. And so that, and if I can ask everybody to give their answers, but let's try and get as many touch points as possible over the next 30 minutes or so. So Andy, I'll come to you and start on that. How do we manage that we want to supply training, but at the same time, it is still an unregulated, to a large extent, unregulated sector. So if you come in, Andy, and then we'll go around the table and we'll try and get around the table as many times as possible.
Yes, from my point of view, it's collaboration and making these qualifications available. So it's not just one person saying this is the right way to do things, and having the qualifications approved by people like Ofqual, by awarding organisations who have looked at the content, assessed the content is credible, because it's easy to put courses together. It's not easy to actually quantify the fact that it's correct. Anyone could say, I've got a training course, this is how you do it, but who says they're correct? So by working with awarding organisations, they're looking at the credibility of that content, the subject matter experts behind it, the referencing of this information, where has this come from, and who says it's right. And this comes in with what Jim mentioned, certainly about collaboration between organisations and organisations across the world as well. Because what we don't want to do is establish in the UK, this is the best way of doing things, and we're the greatest, and we say it's the best. And then we go to the US and speak to Jim, and he says, no, that's different to how we're doing it. So we need to agree these things between us, and by the world's become a smaller place in the last 12 months, as we're sitting here now. If we can share information and work together to create ultimately what the best standards are, and make them available to people.